come once again to discuss things.
It's this kind of song.
Alright, I'm ready to go.
Alrighty. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentleman History Month, the month in which we discuss the contributions that geeky gentlemen have made to history but that have been ignored by a biased educational system, except not at all. I am Sid Partout, joining me today is...
Hey, what's up? I'm that Matt kid.
Indeed, you are that Matt kid. Yeah, so today we're discussing the film 300 Rise of an Empire because Matt wanted to discuss 300, but I was like, well, we already done a video on that. So how about its sequel, belated sequel, which I want to say is, 2015, 2014 maybe?
Yeah, 2014. So it came out quite a ways after because 300 was like 06.
Yeah, 06, 07. So you're talking at least 5 to 7 years in the break in there.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, with filming in such a CGI heavy film, that's, even more so. So yeah, 300 Rise of an Empire. Now, when I suggested this as an alternative choice, you were like, oh yeah, I'll talk about its shitty sequel, even though you'd never seen the movie. So
Yep.
I guess here's my question for you, Matt. Is it truly a shitty sequel?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't like it?
My thing with 300 is that 300 single-handedly kicks off this whole subgenre of these historical / fantasy action movies with this super saturated color grade that are kind of for bro dudes, like the Clash of the Titans remake, Immortals, 47 Ronin, Gods of Egypt, Dracula Untold, Warcraft the movie. And except for 300, they're all shit. They're all just fucking garbage. And so I was like, oh, cool. I saw 47 Ronin in theaters. That shit was garbage. So I was like, oh, cool. Maybe Rise of an Empire comes out 2014. It's going to be the OG, the king comes back to be like, let me show you how it's done. Let me show you punk ass losers how it's done. And look, it's certainly not Clash of the Titans bad, because most things aren't, but it's not good. The original 300, I understand it's got its criticisms, it's got its controversies with how certain things are presented. I understand that. I get that. I don't fucking care. That movie goes so goddamn hard. I love 300. It just goes, and it came out in 2006. It puts every single one of those dude bro fantasy epic action movies to shame and then some. No one has ever come close to getting to the level of 300. And then you get to Rise of an Empire, and look, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not Dracula Untold, it's not Clash of the Titans.
I really like Dracula Untold.
So this is gonna be a fun video. Obviously we'll get into the historical context of it at least as much as we can. But it's a movie that just feels so much like it's living in the shadow of 300, and it just never gets a chance to try to be its own thing. And it has things I like, and it has things I just really, really don't like. But overall, I would say I didn't love it. I'm open to another point of view. I was not a huge fan, but I think there's some fun stuff to talk about.
Okay, so my general thoughts of the movie is it's not 300 levels of good, because I pretty much agree with you completely that 300 sparked a thing, and everyone tried to capitalize on it for years after the fact. So it's definitely not 300 good, but I think of all those other things, it's still the closest to get to what 300 was doing. It's in that same vein of kind of that really hyper masculine film, and it's very enjoyable to watch. It knows what it's doing. I think it is on that same track. I feel like it suffers from just like the story of the 300 Spartans is like some myth level shit, but it has the benefit of actually happening.
Right.
And like to try to expand that out and deal with like the defeat of the Persian Empire at the united forces of Greece is like it really seems like it should follow, but it's just there's something to that like doomed mission. Like Leonidas leaves for the Hot Gates and like it's he knows he's going to die, and he goes to fight anyway, and like there's something like kind of like yeah, fucking tragic heroes, yeah, about that. Whereas the context, and I can't even remember the name of the guy, even though he is an actual historical figure too, just like Leonidas. I can't remember the name of the guy.
The main character?
Yeah.
Oh, Themistocles?
Themistocles, yeah. Themistocles leading, the nations of Greece against the forces of Persia. It's given him maybe too much credit. I don't know 100% about the history, but it's like the Greeks were reasonably practical. They kind of like knew that if they didn't want to, none of the Greeks wanted to be a part of Persia, and they knew that like their only chance was to fight together. So it's not necessarily like just this one dude's vision made it all happen kind of thing. So like you're already treading on more of like that artistic license style of thing for history. So you're taking something that could be, you're taking a lot of coulds and maybes and if this then this kind of things to try to stitch it all together. So it's like it certainly feels like it's trying to be just as epic, but it feels like it has to work harder to try to be as epic.
Because like the Battle of Thermopylae feels like this, even if historically it obviously didn't go down quite exactly like that, but it still feels like this truly mythical like story that is worth telling. Like there's just this air about it, of this story. It almost feels like it's this classic story that's been with us since the dawn of time, and then this is just kind of like, oh, but also there were like some Athenians and they were over here doing this thing, and then now we're to the after that, and I mean the pacing is all over the place, which doesn't help the fact that it already feels like that, and so to then have it be paced so awkwardly.
Yeah, like if you try to timeline out this movie, it's like, okay, so it takes place at the same time as
it's
300.
a prequel, a midquel, and a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. So like I remember when this movie came out, I was talking about people, and like you could conceivably cut these two films together, which is weird. Like you'd have to cut a couple things out just because of how this movie opens, but you could cut 300 and 300 Rise of an Empire into a single film. It'd be very disjointed, but you could do it. And there's that, I don't know, that's just kind of, fascinating. But, like, it creates this weird disjointed thing where, like, once Leonidas dies, Themistocles' naval battle to hold off the Persian armada ceases. And then there's, like, this weird political thing, and it seems like everyone's getting, like, +2 to movement for their, like, how everything's coming together. Like, you're really left with this sense of, like, how much time has passed between Leonidas dying and the, sacking of Athens and the final naval battle kind of thing. Like, it just feels strange.
Well, I mean, a lot of that comes down to the editing. There's, like, a moment where when the guy tells him, and he's like, oh, a hunchback has betrayed him, and he has lost, and the Hot Gates have fallen, and yada yada yada, and then he's like, okay, go tell their story. I will bring his story to Athens. Cut. He's inside a building inside Athens talking to the trader guy. Like, no establishing shot, no montage to show traveling back to Athens. Just boom, we're there. We're in the building with him, and you're just like, whoa, okay, wait, what? And then shortly after that, boom, cut to this montage that almost doesn't even feel like it's really happening, of Athens being destroyed. You're just like, wait, what? Okay, take a break. Which is weird to me because it's not a long movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it spends a lot of time on the battles, and like for something like that to work, you kind of need a third movie. Which, hold on, let me go grab a thing real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting about this movie, I will say while he is gone, is that it's got way more titties. And I'm going to talk about titties while he's gone. It's just got a lot of them. There's so many. Like Ava Green, she's naked in this. That's something. In the opening montage,
So I bought I bought this like a year ago. And it's called Xerxes.
The like mini series.
Yeah, I bought the collected edition of it.
Didn't that come out after the movie?
It came out after 300 Rise of an Empire.
I haven't read anything like post 2000 by Frank Miller, and I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not. It's 300, and I enjoyed 300 Rise of an Empire. I only saw it the one time in theaters, but I still enjoyed it. So I was like, well, I mean, it'd be kind of hard for Frank Miller to fuck that one up, but you know. So I guess the question is, the title of this is Xerxes, and it's weird because 300 Rise of an Empire has like that whole section that talks about how Xerxes became a god.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like legit curious, like, what if there's a third movie that also takes place around the same timeline and everything, and it like shows the sacking of Athens and like extends that out and shows more like Xerxes' trial in the desert, and then shows the final defeat at the United Greek Army.
It's funny because I did flip through some pages of it. I just like found it online and flipped through some pages of it, and I was just like, you know, I will say what I want about Frank Miller till the cows come home, but like the dude, despite the fact that his visual style is bizarre, it's also bizarre in a way that I can't help but find kind of enthralling. And so when I look at the art in Xerxes, and I look at the art of Xerxes himself, like going through his trials and being all covered in the bandages and all this stuff, like there's something about the way that Frank Miller captures that in his art that I find a lot more compelling than the way it was done in the film. Mm-hmm. Even though Frank Miller's art is on a technical level kind of just fucking weird and bizarre and kind of ugly to look at in a lot of ways, but there is a texture to it. There is a style about it that is fascinating, and it's also interesting because I think some of the controversy around 300 and around this movie is the casting of white ass dudes as all these Greeks and Persians, and like when you read the books, because I read a little bit of the opening of that, and when you see Xerxes in the Xerxes miniseries, like he looks a lot different. And a lot of the characters in the original 300, they look more of color. They don't. So it's so I definitely, those are all valid. And like I said, with 300, I just push that stuff to the back of my mind because I get that it's there. But I think that's interesting because I'd never really bothered to like look into the comics, but I did flip through a few pages of each before this in preparation.
That's pretty much what I'm doing right now, and I'm like, it's interesting because as I'm flipping through it, there's just like entire pages with no dialogue. Like huge pages. I'm like, I can't really glean what the thing is about if I'm not seeing anything that looks like this is clearly Themistocles, this is clearly Leonidas. I'm definitely not seeing Ava Green's character fucking on a boat in the middle of a battle.
Oh my god.
That's
what we were talking about. That's what me and the audience were talking about while you were grabbing that. We were talking about titties.
Yeah, just fucking whipping out them Eva Green titties and like
this movie has more titties than original 300 does. So I mean, it points for that, I guess. It's that's really interesting because like Xerxes is one of those things that like a lot of people criticized in a whole lot of different ways. Xerxes is this queer coded villain. He's some people viewed it as being kind of phobic of kind of homophobic, but also just kind of a little bit much in the othering of POC department. And I'm just like, yeah. But I also, Dan Olson, one of my favorite YouTubers, he's got a great video about this where he's like, yes, but isn't it also just kind of awesome? Like, Xerxes is badass. Like yes, but he's awesome. And that's kind of like my thing with Xerxes. That's my thing with this whole movie. I'm just like, yeah, 300 has all these problems, but it's just, it's so fucking like...
It hits in a different spot of the brain, right?
It doesn't feel like, yes, on paper I could complain about all these things, but I kind of don't want to, because Xerxes is just so good. And then you get to this, and we have Ava Green's character, which is Artemisia. Yeah, Artemisia. And she's trying, and I know that her performance is one of the things that a lot of people praise in this movie. But it's odd to me to watch her just kind of do this, like, what feels like almost like a discount Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender almost type character. Like, that's the type of character, like, that's like the vibe I get from her. And it's just very odd. Like, she doesn't have that commanding presence that Xerxes has, that they try to give her, but then they don't really give her really another angle. Like, they don't make her, like, more cunning necessarily. So, like, they
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think she's... I don't know, like, I like the way that she's the sense behind the crown. Like, Xerxes is this god king, and then she's
the
like
one who put him there.
Yeah, like, I really like that scene where she's like, don't forget who gave you that crown. Kind of thing. Like, I really like that one. And she's just she's so manipulative and stuff. Like, it's not historically accurate at all, but I fucking love the idea of the scene where it's like, fucking, Xerxes' father dies trying to invade Greece, which not what happened at all, but still.
Nope, not
trying
even
to invade Greece. He's like, don't go to Greece. Only the god. Yeah, only the gods could destroy the Greeks. And she's like, it was a challenge.
Yeah,
it's just
that's pretty cool.
Good. Like, that's a very Frank Miller kind of vibe thing. He knows how to hit at like a very particular level, and I can't help but feel like that was, if nothing else, that was channeling the Frank Miller-ness of it all. And then, like, I don't know, she's got these really cool moments to me that I did quite like. I thought she did have a commanding presence. I thought she was pretty cool. Like, I like the scene where she outs the spy on her ship. I like the scene where she's trying to get information from her generals, and they're all like failing in different ways. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like classic stuff like that. It's great when she asked that first general, and she's like, "What do you assure?" He's like, "I assure you, you will have your victory. I swear with my life," or something like that. And you're just like, "Well, I know where this is going. That guy's dead." And it's that very classic sort of evil villain setup type thing. It's really good. I mean, there's definitely a lot to her. It's funny, she does try to use her sort of like when she invites Themistocles over, and she's trying to like get him to her side, and then they start making the coitus, and they're trying to out fuck each other, which I thought was really kind of amusing, and it like that's the kind of over the top vibe. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm feeling this. This is hilarious. This is like hilarious but kind of awesome. And then of course later she's got that like, you fight harder than you fuck line. I was just like, oh my god. Yeah. So like there are certainly moments where they're just fucking leaning into it like real hard, and so I definitely appreciate that.
It is definitely the most like toxic masculine badass woman that you could write. It's very much trying to be that, and I can't. Like, I probably should be against it on paper, but I can't. I actually legitimately am into it. Like, she's got so many good fucking lines and moments. Like, I like the whole, like, seeing the superiority in the enemy when she's like, if I had Themistocles by my side, I could give you the world.
Oh yeah.
That's fucking great. I love shit like that.
He's got them right where he wants them, and she's like, I was talking about Themistocles. It's like,
yeah. Like I like a lot of that stuff, and also I don't know. Let me ask you this. We'll get off Ava Green for a minute here, and talk about the portrayal of the Athenians compared to the Spartans, because that's something that I think is like one of the underlying problems with the movie. Because 300 just hits on such a fucking level. And there's like that really great scene where they need like the help of, I think it's the Arcosians or whatever.
The Arcadians?
Yeah, the Arcadians. They need the help of the Arcadians in 300, and so they're like, you're gonna do this thing, and then we'll come in. You'll upset them. You're gonna take some losses, but we'll come in and just fucking slaughter. And then like the narration's like, they're not warriors, but they do their job. Yeah, they do their job. Yeah, they do their job. Like, it's a great fucking line.
Yeah.
But it shows you it's there to demonstrate how the Spartans are like these, masters of war kind of thing. Like, they're perfect at all of it. They're not brawlers. They don't just get the job done. They do it with style and stuff. But then you like open this movie and you have the Athenians just, it's shot, they fight, like everything with the Athenians fighting looks exactly the same way that the Spartans did. Everything about it makes it like they might as well just be Spartans. They're Spartans wearing blue, Yeah.
And they're color coded for your convenience.
Yeah, like that is legit, like, I think a problem with it. But the thing I do like is the clever trickery and strategy that Themistocles employs, because that is very Athenian and very like Greek. Like, there's a lot of Greek stories. Like, I'm trying to think of one. Like, this guy falls in love with Persephone, and so he goes to the underworld to challenge Hades for her hand. And Hades like sits there and he's like, all right, well, I guess I can consider this. Have a seat and we'll discuss it. And they're like kind of taken aback by it, but he's a god and he's being so polite, so they're like, oh, okay. And then they sit down and they've sat on a bench that you can never rise from. And like, that's just a very like Greek thing, or it's like it's not always about defeating your enemy, it's about like outwitting them.
That's like the Orpheus and Eurydice type shit, where it's just like you're preying on, sort of understanding what the other person is going to do and things like that. And I think that's a really good point. I mean, because you get yourself into this corner where you're like, okay, we're a sequel to 300, so like you can't be a sequel to 300 and not try to like match, because like that's one of the things people loved about that movie was like the fucking like over the top yet still very kind of brutal combat. And like, you can't make a sequel and not try to like top yourself or do something similar, because that's what people want from this franchise. But at the same time, you're right, like Themistocles, like in the final battle, like Themistocles, he like solos like 5 immortals, like grabs one of their weapons, starts like dual wielding it, and like goes hard on all these guys, and you're just like, well, Jesus, dude, like fuck. And so like, you're right, whenever they were doing the like outsmarting them by like ramming the boats or luring them into the fog and having them hit the canyon walls and stuff like that, like, that I think is where I think, like, how do we take 300 and instead of making it awesome using the like hand-to-hand combat, how do we make like strategy awesome? And I think that's where we should have like leaned in more.
I think they do a really good job of showing it the way that they do. Like, sure. I legitimately think the strategy and the outwittingness and stuff is shot and displayed really well. I think they show the combat and they stylize it too much like 300. I don't know how you like stylize witty combat, but like maybe it should have just been more, because I mean, you don't only have 300 guys, so they probably should have just been willing to show more Athenians die in the battles themselves. Like, just be willing to show that, like, you can have Themistocles and, like, your other hero leads be fucking badasses. That'd be fine. But I think they should have just been willing to show more Athenian deaths, and, like, you could have gotten away with a line of, like, if we had the Spartans here, we'd be unstoppable. Like something like that. Like Athenian tactics with Spartan might would be unstoppable. Would have been like a great way to put it. And so it's just, there's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, okay, fine. But I think it does undersell them, and that's probably why it feels a bit weaker in some regards. Because again, I like it a lot, but it's still not as good a movie as 300 is. Though there is, I guess, if I'm going to make one excuse for it, my excuse is going to come down to the same reason that I think 300 is the most historically accurate film I've ever seen. And that's because it is a story. Like, that's the thing, is it is presented as, what's her name, the Queen of the Spartans, telling a story.
Yeah.
And I think that can kind of justify it a little bit more. Because if she's telling a story, she's not going to be like, oh yeah, the Athenians kind of sucked, but they got the job done. And she's going to be like, oh no, the Athenians are super fucking badass. Are you going to let them be the badasses of history? Come on, Sparta.
Yeah. I do think that overall the narration works in 300 better than it does here.
Oh yeah, it's very confusing here.
It's confusing here, and I don't think the writing of the actual lines that the narration gets
that's because
are nearly as good, because the narration lines in 300 are literally some of the best lines in the movie.
I mean, that's just Frank Miller, man. That's just
it's just like, Frank Miller. You can't.
That is his thing, is narration, and so you can
can
try to replicate it, but you can never do it as well.
Oh, you can't. No, you can't. I mean, you can just go read Dark Knight Returns for just gorgeous nonsense. But like, yeah, the narration here, because they're trying to kind of do that similar thing of you're absolutely right. I think putting a framing device on your big historical epic fantasy thing, I think that actually kind of lets you get away with historical inaccuracy. Now, I'm not a big stickler for historical accuracy. I don't really give a shit unless you're because I can tell if a movie is trying to present me with historical accuracy versus if it's not. So I don't really care. Just be upfront with me. If you're not trying to do historical accuracy, then whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to criticize you for it, because that's clearly not what you're setting out to do. But I think that framing device helps. But there unfortunately, I just feel like there's a lot of moments in this where it's just like they're too aware that they're the sequel to 300, and it gets a little annoying. Like, Lena Headey has her whole fucking like monologue about the messenger that came to Sparta, and she's like, oh well, he didn't know that we're not some normal Greek city state. And then there's a pause, and I'm just like, don't do it, don't say it. And she's like, this is Sparta. And I was just like, God damn it, stop. Like, I'm like, there's like, and I don't like, and I want to say,
no, Matt, you don't understand. They say that to everyone. Like, you fucking come visit Sparta, and they're like, oh hey, here from out of town. Like, yeah. Like, well, what they say. This is Sparta. Yeah, I heard it. And it's like, okay, yeah. Where's the market? Oh, market's that way. You go fucking to the market, and you're like, hey, can I get some chickens? They're like, hey, here's your 3 chickens. This is Sparta, by the way. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. And I'm just like I want to be like, oh, that's self-indulgent, but then I'm like, well, no, because a lot of my favorite parts of the movie are when it's being self-indulgent. So like, I feel like I have kind of a back and forth with this one, I think.
No, I think so. Like, I like this movie, I think, more than you, but I don't love it, certainly.
Yeah. They definitely turned up the cartooniness of the blood effects, which I thought was amusing upon first watch. I was just like, man, they're really like this is like their interpretation of what everyone thought. Like, this is like looking back, like this is what 300 looked like if you look back at it in your mind's eye. But if you go back and look at it, you're like, actually no, the blood effects in 300, while still over the top, were not quite this over the top.
No,
but this is like the memory of what it looked like.
Yeah, no, it's just like that's the one thing I wanted to talk about, which is just the fact that, like, I feel this is also the weaker film because it's not working on of something that Frank Miller wrote. Like you mentioned that with the narration. The narration isn't as good because it's not like in 300 they pulled direct lines from Frank Miller narration. Yeah. In this they have to create their own and try to imitate Frank Miller narration.
Yeah.
It also, like, he's not my favorite by any means, but like it also loses a little something that it's not directed by Zack Snyder. It's produced by Zack Snyder. I
agree, with a big asterisk around everything I'm about to say. Zack Snyder is a man who knows how to capture something visually that is, if nothing else, just very interesting to behold as a spectacle.
Oh no, certainly.
You
should just shoot music videos. You'd be great at it.
Yeah. I don't hate Watchmen as a film. I think Watchmen as a film is fine. I think it's mostly a shot for shot, like line for line adaptation of the book. I think it's fine. I think when Zack Snyder is adapting material and when he gets to just lean into making it look cool, like 300 is really like legit, like the perfect project for someone like Zack Snyder. And so I think that's part of what made that movie come together in such a perfect way. And then this, he's definitely involved and we're still going for that same style, that like super saturated, half CG, half live action. It almost kind of feels like a super high-end video game style. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I think that's cool. Like I like really leaning into the look of this and making it feel like this like comic book brought to life. But you do lose a little something. But I still think most of the combat sequences are still pretty well shot. I mean, I still think they're well shot. Just by trying to emulate 300, I think they were above and beyond some of these other people.
No, I mean, certainly. I think they're well shot. I think it looks good. I think they don't know what to shoot well. Like, I think they shoot everything well, but they don't know what to shoot well in particular, if that makes sense. Because, like, it's become a bit of a meme of, like, the slow down to almost an instant and then, speed it back up kind of thing that Snyder's kind of known for now. Mm-hmm. I feel like this movie just does it way too much, to a degree even Snyder doesn't do it. And with stuff that's just, like, not necessary. Like, when Themistocles goes to Sparta to try to talk to the queen before Leonidas dies, Leonidas is left, but he's not dead yet. Like that, there's just like this very long scene of three guys beating the shit out of a Spartan. It just goes on forever. And like there's like 3 or 4 slowdown moments in it, and it's just not necessary.
I expected that to go somewhere, and then it just kind of didn't. Like I expected that character to
makes
be
a
somebody.
Point. Yeah, no, definitely not. But it makes the point, which you get that scene bookended where he's like, "I'll go to Sparta alone." Then he comes back out of Sparta and he's like, "Well, the Persians have offered them something that we can't. They've joined Sparta? No, they've offered them a glorious death."
Yeah.
And like that's what that scene is there to service, but I just don't think you need to slow down and emphasize the fuck out of it like that.
Yeah, there's a couple moments I remember, and again, I don't want to criticize this part too heavily because I think this is pretty rare, but there was at least a couple moments I can think of where we slowed down and the shot kind of lingered on like a dude gets flipped over a shield. Like the guy does the thing where he like brings his shield down and then like flips the dude over his shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then we just focus on kind of the dude who got flipped, like his back as he falls towards the ground. And like that's pretty much all that's in frame is just the dude falling slowly towards the ground. And it's like all slowed down. I'm like, this is not like you slow down when he does the flip and then you speed back up once he's falling towards the ground, because who cares about just him falling? That's not the part we care about. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple moments of that where it's just like we're emulating the choreography and shooting style of 300, and because that was honestly like really good, that still puts us head and shoulders above some of these other movies that 300 inspired. But yeah, there's still not that. I don't know what I would call it. I wouldn't call it that Zack Snyder vision, I guess, to really know when to use that style. It's just kind of like you've been given this style and be like, all right, emulate this, make it look like this, but you don't have that creative like hand guiding you to show you like why you would want to make these choices.
Yeah, that's 100% where I am with it. It's like it's not that it's not done well, it's just that it's overdone in a way that I don't think Snyder would. It's not that the narration isn't good narration, but it's trying too hard to be Frank Miller narration. Like, I mean, here's the other thing. You already didn't get Gerard Butler back. You only got like one or two of the characters from the original 300 back that aren't like, you know, super heavy on screen time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Should it, like, I know Frank Miller's miserable about deadlines and stuff, but like, the dude can write a script. Frank Miller wrote the screenplay for fucking The Spirit and shit. Set him up with a co-writer. I mean, fucking... It took between 86 and 2001 to get a sequel to Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Strikes Again. It took us, like, that many years to get a sequel to Dark Knight. But then, you know, you go from that to mid-2010s and suddenly fucking 2 or 3, or God, I've lost count of it how many sequels came out to Dark Knight Strikes Again. And that's because he started working with a co-writer who balanced out a little bit of the crazy. You put Frank Miller on the screenplay to a sequel to 300. You give him a good co-writer with a good head on their shoulders to know when to say, no, Frank, let's not do that. And then you would have at least had a better script to work from that would have had more of those moments. I just think it would have been the smarter choice. Because I feel like they're probably working on Frank Miller's notes as opposed to a proper script.
Yeah, I think parts of this were... I want to say that, like, they had some, like, sort of inkling of what he was kind of doing with his Xerxes book, but I guess I don't know exactly what the whole, you know, what that whole thing was.
I mean, I just flipped through all of it. I'm telling you that fucking none of this is in there. Like,
really?
None of, like, the stuff with Xerxes in the desert is definitely in there, but, like, there's not, like, a single, like, there's maybe 1 page or 2 of a naval battle. That's it.
Got it. Okay. Well, I mean, and that just tells me that, like, Frank Miller, when he was writing that story, that was just a different story that he wanted to tell. He wanted to tell the story of Xerxes as opposed to this, which tells the story of Xerxes as a way to tell the story of these of the Athenians and things like that. So it's like we're kind of trying to do both of those at once. I was glad that they got Xerxes back though, because I love Xerxes in 300, so I was happy to see him back in this.
Yeah, I mean, like, we got Xerxes as a book down. Like I said, you could probably do another film that takes place kind of during parts of this film and kind of, you know, again, prequel, sequel, midquel, this film again, and just call it 300 the fall of Xerxes or something. Because I mean, that's the fucking thing everyone really wants to see. I think that will put more butts in seats, to be honest, because you just, like, I remember talking with friends, because fucking dude, how old were you when 300 came out?
That was 2006, so I would have been what, like, some number of years old. That's math I can probably do in my head. I was probably like 13.
Okay. So you were 13. I was like 2006, so I'd have been 15 or 16. Yeah, like that was like the perfect age to experience that movie, I feel, because it's just like when you're at the height of that
that type of masculine fascination. And like I remember talking with friends, and he's like, there's a fucking moment where he's like gonna throw the spear, and it's like he took off his helmet because it blinded him. He put down his shield because it was heavy, and he needed his arms to be free. And he threw his spear because he needed his aim to be true. Like, it's so good. It's really so good. I feel like that's the fucking moment. Like, I just remember first, if the spear had just gone like a little more to the left, then he would have got him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so that's the fucking thing that would put butts in seats if you do like the fall of Xerxes. You know, like that'd be the fucking move. I don't know. It's just it's an interesting. I don't know if I'd call it a failure. It's an interesting attempt. Like I really feel like the studio rushed it out quicker than it had any real reason to. Because again, even if it waited a couple more years, so what? Like they'd already waited 7 years. What's 10? You know?
Yeah.
Like to get a better, more refined script, because I feel like if you do get a Xerxes movie now that's actually based off of the Miller graphic novel, I feel like it's going to be like that 300 Rise of an Empire is going to be like the thing that everyone skips because it's going to be seen as like filler almost.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's going to be almost no reason to watch it unless you're really into the franchise. Because I feel like if you come out with Xerxes, it would just be the end of the story, and you wouldn't really need this unless you put fucking Themistocles in it as a main character, in which case he might feel really awkward. You know?
Yeah.
Alright, so all that being said, I do want to talk about the final battle, because the final battle is like when it gets the most epically 300-ish, and I fucking love it. Like, dude, that fucking horse on that fucking boat is like my fucking shit.
Yeah, and then fucking like, and then even at the very, very end when like fucking Lena Headey as Queen of Sparta, like getting onto the boat and like using Leonidas' sword to fight. I'm just like, what the fuck? So we're just tossing shit out at this point. Like we just took our history books and we're just like, trash those. God damn, yeah. No, I mean there's definitely a lot of awesome stuff happening in that final battle for sure.
Yeah, I fucking love, again, because that's the thing, like, more shit like that would have been dope for the Athenians, because it feels so, like, it's so unexpected that he just fucking comes off the boat and starts jumping boat to boat with a goddamn horse. It's so fucking cool. I fucking love that shit. And then he gets the fight with Ava Green's character, and, like, you know, again, it's hype as shit to me because she's got the fucking armor with like the spikes in the back. I have no idea what purpose that possibly serves except to look awesome.
So she doesn't get snuck up on, obviously.
Okay, if you're sneaking up on her, couldn't you avoid the spikes anyway?
Yeah, fair point. But no, I mean she's got like the spiky armor. Oh my god, you're right. I'm watching it on mute kind of while, oh my god, she's got like spikes going down the spine. I didn't even notice that. I know,
yeah, like they just got fucking like on her spine, she's just got like fucking back spikes, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, I guess you can grab her.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man. Like 300 as a movie, I feel like influenced a lot of like video game design in terms of visual design, and then I feel like we've come full circle back to this. I'm just like, it looks like something a video game character would wear in like World of Warcraft. And that's not like a negative towards it or anything like that. It's just like that's clearly this like super ultra saturated like hardcore fucking style they're going for, where everything is just way exaggerated. And so like that's why the Spartans and even that's the other thing, like the Spartans don't wear armor because that's just like this exaggerated view of what the Spartans were. They just fucking go in, their armor is their bodies. And then the Athenians, I'm like, you guys should probably be wearing some armor because you
that would be another good way to differentiate them, you know?
Yeah, because you're right, they literally just feel like the Spartans but with blue capes. And I'm like, well, if they wore armor, if they you can still have cool choreography, but like maybe make them fight in a somewhat different way.
Like
Just
if they
something
fight
to
in
just-
groups compared to like fighting, one-on-one like the Spartans did or something.
yeah.
Like more like team combos kind of thing.
And we get a little bit of that. We get a little bit of that with the son character when he starts fighting with his like dad on the field. And we get a little bit of that, and that stuff's all cool. So I mean, there's definitely stuff here. I think it's and I was gonna say something else about Ava Green's character, unless you had something else you wanted to
No, go
finish
for it.
up.
Go for it.
I think it's funny that because Artemisia the First of Korea, she was like the queen of a Greek city-state, and so like they kind of play with that, and they're just like, oh well, she's part of the Persian forces, but she's Greek, and that's like how you people take orders from a Greek woman, and then they give her this tragic backstory, and they're like, oh, Greek soldiers, Greek hoplites like raped and murdered her family in front of her, and then they kidnapped her, and then they kept her on their ship and like raped her for like years, and then they just dropped her off in a Greek city and left her for dead. But then this like Persian man finds her when he's on like an emissary mission, and he like takes her home and raises her, and now she wants vengeance on the Greeks. And I'm just like, and you want us to not like her? Like she's the bad guy? Like
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Did you notice who the guy that raised her is?
No, is it the messenger guy?
Yeah, it's the messenger,
Oh
the
my
guy that gets
God.
kicked in the pit.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't for sure. But they give her this like super tragic backstory, and I'm like, yeah, I'd want to destroy all of Greece too. Like fucking man.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing.
The villain has a backstory that I'm just like, okay, but why am I now rooting for the Greeks? Like none of them even comment that that's horrible that it happened. They're just like, oh man, yeah, that sounds like something that could have happened.
I don't know. See, that's just like the most Greek thing. Like, do you know anything about the story of Electra?
No.
Okay, I don't know. I can never remember the fucking name of the guy. So Electra is this queen in this foreign country, and I can't remember the name of it. There's a lot of details are fuzzy. She's this queen in a foreign country. Greek hero comes and he marries her and he takes her back to Greece. Then when he gets back to Greece, he's like, okay, well I don't really love you and you're a foreigner and that's kind of gross. So I'm just gonna like leave you, and also kick you out of my house. And she's like, I was a queen. I betrayed my family for your love, and I've come thousands of miles from my home for you. He's like, yeah, but I mean, like, you're still better off being homeless in Greece than being a queen anywhere else in the world, because Greece is just like the best. Like that's Electra's tragic backstory. And she becomes like, and yet she's the villain of her story.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I'm just like that may very well be very Greek. Ancient civilizations, not always the most progressive peoples. But it's still just so odd to me that like you have this narrative where you're taking vastly dramatic historical anachronisms and changes anyways. So why would you purposefully go out of your way to make the like underdog heroes of your stories look like fucking pieces of shit?
Yeah, no, it is an odd choice, certainly. Like, I don't really comprehend that motivation because like it also doesn't even really stick, like it doesn't really work because she doesn't feel like she's in it for vengeance against Greece. She's played like she's in it because she wants like power,
Yeah.
She doesn't just like, because it like, what was it, when they're burning Athens, she's like, oh, you burned the one thing worthwhile in this city, the city itself. Like, no, her backstory, she should be all about just burn Athens. It doesn't fucking matter. Like,
you're absolutely right about that. Like, she's the voice of reason who's like, hey, if we're going to take over, like, if you're planning on taking over Greece, why would you destroy the, like, one thing that we could have, like, taken over and made, like, made part of us. But you're right. If her backstory is this like horrible thing that these Greeks did to her, like, yeah, it should almost be the other way around. Like Xerxes should want to take Athens and turn it into a place for the Persians to mock the Greeks, and she should want to like burn that shit to the ground. One would think.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is you could take this horrific backstory and then, you know, show her that she's now become a zealot, so like it doesn't even matter that like what happened to her was terrible, because she's now taking it out on all of Greece, and even if like hundreds of Greeks treated her like shit, there's still millions to consider, right? Or thousands, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just a weird choice in that regard. Like I don't like her backstory that much. It's
no.
You know, it's centered on rape as the motivation for a woman. That's always, there's nothing wrong with doing it, but there's something wrong with the fact that it seems to so often be the case for motivating
kind of
female characters for some reason.
It's kind of a crutch, and I think that's part of what leads me not to like her as much as a villain as I want to, because they do that, and then she also like, she kind of becomes a woman scorned by the end of it, and I'm just like, I kind of don't love that either. Like, but see, like, I'm also at odds with myself, because I'm like, well, I gave 300 a pass on all of its like problematic stuff, so I feel like I should be doing the same with this one. But I also
think
feel like
300 earns it harder.
Yeah, I
than
feel like
Best does. You know,
I feel like 300 earns it harder, and I also don't feel like 300 plays into a trope as outdated and as sexist as like this, like the whole woman scorned and the rape backstory. Like I don't think 300 goes into anything that blatantly just kind of a tired stereotype of a backstory. Like I don't like 300 has like the Xerxes being you know, really queer coded, and it's got the othering of people from that part of the world. Like, yeah, I mean that's all bad and stuff, but like I don't know, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, again, I think the trappings of the narrative help save it in 300, because you're seeing the story through the eyes of a Spartan soldier in 300. So of course he paints the enemy as like this disgusting monstrosity kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, it's exceptionally weird, because then Ava Green's character's story is a story within a story, because it's characters talking about her and her past, but those characters are talking about her and her past within the context of the Spartan Queen story, which is weird.
Yeah, and it makes that narration feel less... It almost makes it feel like something that was just put in because that's what 300 did, and so we got to have a narration because that's what we do in this franchise. But it's weird to then have a story inside a story. It's like having a flashback inside of a flashback. It's just like, this is kind of bizarre. Exactly.
Fucking Inception horn up in this bitch. Yeah, like there's definite weaknesses. I tend to just like to be honest with you, man, I completely forgot her backstory watching this. Like I remembered things going into this movie. I remembered her like fucking in the middle of the film and thought that was like the most like eye-rolling kind of stupid thing as far as sexist tropes go. But at the same time, it's so over the top and so like cool that they're both power bottoms or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like they're both trying to exactly, because that's that moment where it's just like we're being like exploitative, but like we're being exploitative in that way of like the whole film is basically one big exploitation film, so we can kind of get away with it. And so like that sex scene is it's, I mean, it's fairly graphic just in that, like obviously we see Ava Green completely topless, but like it just kind of works, and it would almost feel weird if we didn't. Like
yeah, like I remembered that scene, but I also remembered like her just fucking being this brutal Darth Vader-esque character, just killing off generals and high-ranking officials. I remembered her like kind of throwing shade at Xerxes, and like I remember that you fight harder than you fuck line. Like I remember that. Like that's the shit I remembered about her. That's why I actually like still really liked her as a villain. I'd completely forgotten about the origin piece for her. Like I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, I think my thing is just I just distinctly remember watching this movie and hearing the origin, just being like, "Oh, that's typical."
Yeah,
Like,
no, for
and
sure.
I think
for
my
sure.
reaction to the origin stuck out more than the origin itself. Um, I'm also just now remembering that when Themistocles falls into the water at some point, there's like he gets like a
Fucking
dream
dragons?
of yeah, he gets
Yeah.
like he dreams because like yeah, he like sees sea serpents and then he like wakes up like it was a nightmare, and I'm just like, what even is this movie?
Yeah, no, that's a weird part. That's a weird ass part. I need to look up one thing real quick.
Yeah.
I think it has a name.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the small details, since we just spent so much time like kind of trashing it for going way too hard into the artistic license side of storytelling, but one of the things I do want to talk about is like a really really cool blink and you miss it thing that they put in is the pontoon bridges. All right.
Okay.
So this is like an actual thing that happened, as far as historical records can indicate, and it's shown in the movie, and I just think it's really really cool that they did this. So one of the big problems with invading Greece from Persia is just the time it takes to march an army there. So you either have to put all of your army on boats, which takes longer to build enough boats for that, especially given the size of the Persian army, or you have to march like around a body of water, around a bay, inlet, whatever you call it.
Sure.
Like just the geography of the land. And so like they did like if to march around that would like add a year to getting to Greece, of how long it would take to move that many people. And so real life thing they did is they got a bunch of pontoon boats that are a lot easier to build, a lot quicker, and then they put wood over them, roped the boats together, and just made a bridge, a floating bridge across the entire thing, and marched the army over that.
Oh yeah, I saw that. 'Cause
Yeah,
that
it's
was
just
when he
the-
like gestures out and you see like the big bridgeway that has a bunch of the boats like sticking out. Like yeah.
Yeah, so like they put like an actual like brilliant, feat of engineering in the ancient world. And they put it in the fucking movie, and that I think that's just fucking dope. Like I love that they squeezed in a detail like that. There's shit like that in 300 as well, where it's like very very specific things make their way in that are actual historical factoids. But I just think like just seeing that in the background is really fucking cool. Like
cool.
I nerded out when I saw that because I've always like stuck to that detail ever since because I watched 300 in high school, and then I got really into the fucking Battle of 300 and learning all about that. And that was one of the things that came up about it. I'm like, God, that's so fucking cool. That they managed to work that in the movie. So I like that. Is there anything... We're getting kind of close to the end here. Is there anything like specific like that you thought was really cool or awesome, or something that stood out to you like that?
I'm trying to think here. Obviously, like the scene that I thought was the coolest was the big naval battle, where like first they're ramming them from the sides, and then they're luring them into the canyons and stuff like that. That was probably like one of the most standout moments for me, because that was kind of the moment where it felt like the Athenians were kind of their own thing and really coming into their own. I'm not sure there's any other like specific sequences that I'm thinking that were like that. Oh shit, yeah, when they when the Persians are like shooting tar like out to light the water on fire, and the tar is like shooting from a hatch on the Persian ship, and they light the hatch on fire, and then the fire goes up the tar trail, and then the ship explodes, and then Ava Green, she sees that happen, and so she picks up a bow and she shoots a flaming arrow at one of her dudes and just basically turns him into like a suicide bomb. That shit was fucking awesome. That was amazing. And it was really I thought that was neat. So a couple moments like that. That was probably one of the more standout moments for me. Everyone in this movie is so good with a bow. Like their historical bows were nowhere near that accurate, but they are in this world, so that's cool.
You just have to be a fucking badass. Bow accuracy is directly proportional to levels of badassery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just how it works.
So yeah,
Ask
those
Odysseus.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yes, that is true. That's what I should have fucking picked. The fucking Odyssey TV miniseries that has Christopher Lee in it. Fucking love.
You know
that
what's
thing.
something that always pisses me off? My other really favorite, like, because this is before 300, and I think honestly,
Yeah.
I think that this is the movie that started all these things, and 300 is the one that just picked it up first. Troy.
Oh
with-
yeah, Troy.
With
Sure.
Brad Pitt and shit. Like,
Yeah. I
dude,
can see that. Yeah.
fucking Sean Bean played Odysseus in that film. We could have had a Sean Bean Odysseus movie. That'd have been the fucking shit.
No, you're definitely right about that. I hadn't even thought about that, but I think you can. Like, I think 300 even, you can trace that back to Troy. And, like, Troy is really where this whole genre starts. And I think Troy is still one of the better ones in it.
Oh, certainly. I fucking love Troy. Like, have you ever seen the director's cut of Troy?
I haven't.
Oh, dude, that is worth a fucking watch. It's like 3 hours long, but it's so good because, like, one of the problems with Troy is they like take out a lot of the more brutal natures, and with the fucking director's cut, it is in. Like, when they run into Troy, it's like, oh yeah, they've won. Kind of feels like really disjointed and stuff. But like in the director's cut, they run into Troy and you realize how bad it is because like immediately they start like ripping babies out of people's arms and like throwing them against walls. It's like, holy shit!
Oh my god.
Yeah, it is. It's a fucking brutal ass movie when you get to some of those moments. But yeah, I fucking love it's all fucking hyper masculine and shit. It's too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Troy is kind of the instigator of all this. I would watch Troy followed by 300, followed by 300 Rise of an Empire again. That would be a good little fucking marathon. You could maybe throw in like probably skip Clash of the Titans and just go straight to Wrath of the Titans, which is such the better movie.
I haven't seen Wrath of the Titans.
Okay. Let me sell you on Wrath of the Titans.
Yeah.
Because at one moment, you get fucking Zeus and Hades.
Uh-huh.
They set aside their differences, and they just fucking go to town fighting as a team.
Oh my god.
It's
That's
so
amazing.
fucking hype. It's like when Goku and Vegeta fight together for like the first time at Z. It's fucking great.
That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Like that's the only comparison I have. So yeah, I'd watch fucking like Wrath of the Titans and some other shit. Like, I don't know, fucking the Greek epic rewatch. Like that's like you watch the fucking what order do you watch the Star Wars movies in? What order do you watch fucking these movies? Yeah. So I don't know. I like some of this stuff. Clash of the Titans, yeah, you're right. That's garbage. Wrath of the Titans, such a better film. Like, embarrassingly better film. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't think I have much else on this. Let me ask you this. We'll talk about this for a few minutes to wrap up.
Yeah.
Did talking about this movie change your opinion on it at all? Like, did this conversation like kind of sway you a little bit more toward it, or did it like solidify you a little bit more against it? Where are you coming down on it generally now that you've had a discussion on it?
I think I'm open to maybe liking it a little bit more. I think if anything, this conversation has solidified what I didn't like about it, but at least made me appreciate a couple other things maybe a little bit more. I think more than anything, what's really unfortunate is I think this conversation has landed me in a place of, man, this was kind of a missed opportunity. Like, I think that's like the worst place to end up with a movie where it's just like, Yeah, I mean, the stuff I thought was bad, I still think is pretty bad. The stuff I thought was good, I think is still pretty solid. But now I'm just thinking about, like, oh man, if they had like tweaked things here and there, I think this could have been something actually pretty special. I think that's like the worst place to end up with a movie sometimes. So I think I'm mostly the same, but there's stuff here that I think could have been better.
Okay, no, it's totally fair. I was just curious because sometimes you're talking about the thing and just that act of talking about a movie can kind of make you just have a different take on it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next week or not next week, I guess. I don't know. This episode's coming out on Thanksgiving Day. Happy Turkey Day, Genocide Day, everybody. So the next episode is the final episode of Geeky Gentleman History Month, and Steve told me what he wanted to talk about, and I've forgotten. So
it's in the Twitter DMs.
Yeah, no, I'm looking now. We're talking about historical bias in education next time. So we gotta figure out a time to record between now and Sunday morning, I guess. So that should be fun. We'll make it work. We'll make that happen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'm the philosopher.
I'm the Greek erotica lover.
I mean, I get there's a lot of that. Like you are.
Go read Punderworld. Go read Linda Cedric's Punderworld.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You have no shortage of Greek erotica, sir.
Oh yeah. Even the source material you've got running.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, and we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.